the sacred unraveling when everything falls apart because everything is coming together. There is a moment in every soul's journey when life no longer makes sense, not because we are lost, but because we are being found. We don't recognize it at first. We think we've made a mistake. We think we've taken a wrong turn. But what if I told you that confusion is not a curse? It's a calling? What if I told you that when life begins to shift in strange, uncomfortable, mysterious ways, it's not falling apart, it's falling into place? That is the beginning of God's alignment. And most people miss it because they're looking for light, and God often begins His work in the dark. The first sign God is aligning you with a higher purpose is something we've all faced but rarely understand. Divine discontent. It's when everything that used to satisfy you suddenly stops working. The job you once loved feels empty. The people you used to vibe with start to fade. The goals you chased suddenly seem shallow. You start to feel like a stranger in your own life. And that's not a mistake. That is God whispering you were made for more. Divine discontent is sacred agitation. It's like spiritual hunger pangs. God is not punishing you, He's preparing you. He's letting the small things fall away so you'll have room for the real things. So I want to ask you something deep. What are you still holding on to that no longer feeds your soul? The second sign is even more subtle. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Synchronicities that defy logic. You think of someone and they call. You randomly open a book and the sentence hits your soul like lightning. You see the same symbol in 3 different places in one day. These aren't coincidences, they are divine breadcrumbs. When God aligns you with your purpose, He starts speaking in the language of patterns. He weaves meaning into moments. He hides messages in plain sight. But most people dismiss them. They call them weird. They call them random. But if you're watching closely, you'll realize God doesn't do random. The universe is a canvas, and your life is the brushstroke. So ask yourself, what has been repeating in your life lately, and why might it be sacred? Now here's where it gets intense. The third sign that God is aligning you with a higher purpose is loss that feels like betrayal, but is actually liberation. You lose the relationship you thought would last forever. The opportunity you dreamed of disappears. The friend you trusted vanishes without explanation. It hurts. It breaks you. But later, sometimes years later, you look back and realize, that loss was my liberation. You were being protected, not punished. God saw what you couldn't. He removed what couldn't go with you to where you're headed. And in those moments we often ask, why would God take this from me? But the better question is, what is He trying to give me space to receive? Pain is not the opposite of purpose. Pain is often the path to purpose. Here's a truth almost no one tells you. When you are being aligned with a higher purpose, your old identity has to die. This is the fourth sign, the ego death that feels like personal failure. You start to question everything. Who you are, what you want, even what you believe. Your confidence crumbles. Your certainty vanishes. But this isn't weakness. This is sacred shedding. The identity you built to survive is being dismantled so your soul can finally live. God doesn't upgrade your purpose without first stripping away everything that isn't aligned with it. So if you feel like you're falling apart, good. That's exactly where transformation begins. The cocoon must collapse for the butterfly to emerge. So I ask you, what part of you is being invited to die so something truer can be born? The fifth sign is one of the most mystical and misunderstood. A sudden, inexplicable pull towards stillness, solitude, or silence. You begin to crave quiet. You no longer enjoy the noise you used to love. Being alone no longer feels lonely, it feels necessary. You're not being antisocial. You're being spiritually recalibrated. God is removing distractions so you can hear the whisper under the noise. The whisper of why you're really here. When God is preparing you for a higher purpose, He often sends you into the wilderness, not to punish you, but to meet you. Ask anyone who's had a spiritual awakening, they'll tell you, it started when I was alone. So if you're in that space right now, don't fear it. Embrace it. That's silence. That's solitude. That's the frequency of God adjusting the signal of your soul. The sixth sign is subtle yet powerful. You start seeing through illusions you once believed. You begin to sense the difference between what's real and what's performance. You see the masks people wear. You hear the lies beneath the words. You recognize manipulation, even when it's dressed in spiritual language. This is spiritual discernment. God is sharpening your vision. You are no longer seduced by surface. You want truth, even when it's ugly. And this is crucial, because the higher your purpose, the deeper your responsibility to walk in integrity. God won't align you with purpose until you can see clearly. Until you can say, I want truth more than I want comfort. So here's a question to sit with. What have you believed about success, love, or spirituality that you now know was just a mask? And finally, the seventh sign, the one that confirms everything else. You begin to feel a sacred urgency, not panic, not anxiety, but a deep, growing awareness that you are meant for more, and the time is now. You feel it when you wake up. You feel it in conversations that don't resonate anymore. You feel it when you look at the world and say, surely I was not born just to pay bills and die. That urgency is divine. It is God tapping your soul on the shoulder saying, it's time. Not time to be perfect, not time to have all the answers, but time to say yes. Time to begin, time to move. Because alignment is not about knowing, it's about trusting. And most people wait for clarity when God is asking for commitment. So now, let's pause. Let's breathe. Because if even one of those signs resonated with you, then you're not watching this by accident. You're not here because of a YouTube algorithm. You're here because your soul is listening. God has already begun the alignment. The only question is, will you say yes to it? We're just getting started. Because in the next part, we're going to go deeper and ask the question that changes everything. What happens when you say yes to purpose? When you say yes to your higher purpose, the world doesn't immediately become clearer. In fact, things often get more chaotic. That's the paradox no one talks about. We expect peace to follow purpose, but what we get first is disruption. Why? Because your yes to God's alignment doesn't just shift your future, it shakes your present. The moment you align with something higher, everything that isn't aligned begins to fall away. It's divine disruption. Relationships that were built on your old self start to feel strained. Things you once tolerated become unbearable. Habits that numbed you stop working. You begin to see how much of your life was built on survival instead of truth. And that realization, it stings, but it also liberates. Because for the first time, you're not living to be liked. You're living to be true. And here's the thing, saying yes to your purpose doesn't mean you suddenly become confident or fearless. In fact, you'll probably feel more exposed than ever. Saying yes is like stepping onto a sacred tightrope. Your ego wants to pull you back, but your soul knows there's no turning around. You'll doubt yourself. You'll wonder if you're crazy. You'll hear the voices of old conditioning telling you you're too much, too late, not enough. And still, you'll walk. Not because you're fearless, but because you're faithful. Because you are faithful. Because once you've glimpsed your higher calling, even fear loses its grip. You begin to realize that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to walk aligned in spite of it. And every step you take in truth sends a signal to the universe. I am ready. But don't expect the world to celebrate right away. When you say yes to your higher purpose, you challenge every system, every story, every structure that benefited from your silence. You will be misunderstood. You may be mocked. People will project their fears onto your freedom. That's okay. Remember, you're not here for approval. You're here for alignment. And your yes is not just for you. It's for everyone watching you rise. Every time you choose truth over comfort, someone else remembers they can too. Every time you walk away from what no longer serves you, someone else finds the courage to do the same. You don't need to preach. You don't need to convince. Your life becomes the sermon. Your presence becomes the proof. And slowly your yes becomes a ripple, awakening others just by being real. And yet the most beautiful shift happens not in what you do, but in how you see. Once you say yes, your entire perception begins to change. You start seeing purpose in places you once saw pain. You look back on your life, not with shame, but with reverence. You begin to understand why the heartbreak happened, why the detour mattered, why the silence was necessary. The puzzle pieces start to fit. The pain becomes the platform. The struggle becomes sacred, and you realize that nothing was wasted. Nothing. God was weaving purpose into every moment, even the ones you begged to escape. That's when you stop resenting your story. You start carrying it like a lantern, because now you see it for what it really was, training for your calling. So I ask you now, not from a place of hype or motivation, but from a place of holy invitation. What would your life look like if you gave God your full yes? Not a partial yes, not a yes when it's convenient, but a full-bodied, soul-deep yes. A yes that says, even if I'm scared, even if I'm uncertain, even if I lose people, I will not shrink from what I'm called to be. Because that kind of yes doesn't just change your life, it changes the world around you. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're still here. Not to chase comfort, but to awaken purpose. The awakening after the yes, when you become the answer to someone else's prayer. When you give God your full yes, without conditions, without timelines, without bargaining, you begin to notice something extraordinary. Life doesn't just respond to you, it reconfigures around you. People you've never met start telling you how your presence gave them clarity. Opportunities you didn't chase start finding you. You notice that your energy, your words, your silence even, begin to carry a certain weight. Why? Because when you live in purpose, you become vibrationally undeniable. The world might not understand what happened to you, but it feels it. And the truth is, when you say yes to purpose, you stop becoming a seeker of light and start becoming a source of it. You don't just chase meaning, you radiate it. But here's the secret, it's not glamorous. Purpose isn't always a mountaintop moment. Sometimes it's washing dishes with presence. Sometimes it's holding space for someone who's breaking. Sometimes it's staying when it's easier to run. Purpose doesn't always feel like fire. Often, it feels like faithfulness. Showing up again and again, even when no one's clapping. Even when doubt tries to creep in. Even when the path is foggy. You realize that purpose isn't a destination, it's a devotion, a continual returning, a continual listening. And when you live from that place, you stop measuring your life by what you've achieved and start measuring it by what you've aligned with. You stop looking for validation and start looking for resonance. And you begin to feel something else too, an inner stillness that no amount of chaos can shake. This is the peace that surpasses understanding. It doesn't come because things are perfect. It comes because you are aligned. You can walk into a storm and remain calm not because you're in denial, but because you know who sent you into it. You begin to trust that every moment has a reason. Every delay has a lesson. Every no is a redirection. You stop panicking when doors close because you understand. If God closes a door, it's only because there's another one that matches your purpose better. You begin to live in a state of holy surrender, not passive but powerful, not checked out but tuned in. And that tuning, that's where the miracles live. You'll also notice that your intuition sharpens, not because you're trying to become spiritual, but because you're finally quiet enough to listen. You'll have moments when you just know what to do, who to call, where to go. That's not coincidence. That's alignment doing its work. You're no longer operating from survival, you're receiving from source. You stop trying to force your way through life and instead begin to flow with it. And don't mistake flow for ease. Sometimes flow takes you straight through fire. But here's the beauty: you begin to trust the fire. Because you've seen what it burns away, and you've tasted what it reveals. You understand that your purpose isn't to avoid the fire, it's to walk through it and come out carrying light for others. And this is where something sacred happens. You become the answer to someone else's prayer. Not because you're trying to be a savior, but because your yes gave someone else permission to believe again. Your story becomes someone else's survival guide. Your vulnerability becomes someone else's strength. Your obedience becomes someone else's awakening. And you don't need to be perfect for this. You just need to be real. You just need to be present. Because alignment is not about having everything figured out. It's about being available to the divine. Available to love, to serve, to show up, to speak when it's time to speak and be silent when silence is sacred. That's what it means to walk in purpose. Not to be impressive, but to be impactful in a way that only authenticity can be. So now I ask you one final question, perhaps the most important one of all. If you stopped hiding, stopped doubting, and fully owned the calling God planted in you, how many lives would change? Not just yours, but the people watching you. The ones silently hoping someone like you would prove it's possible. The ones still stuck in the very pain you've already overcome. The ones whose names you may never know, but whose lives are waiting on your yes. What if your ordinary moments are someone else's miracle in disguise? What if your unseen faithfulness is building a legacy that will echo through generations? That's the power of alignment. That's the weight of purpose. And that's why your yes matters more than you'll ever fully understand. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more aligned people, more awake people, more people who have said yes to something deeper than comfort. And maybe, just maybe, that person is you.